Welcome back. I've got John Fairclough on the line. John, how are you today?
I'm great. Michael, how are you?
Doing really well. Congratulations in advance on the book. We're going to talk about the book quite a bit and the research from it, but I want you to share a little bit about you and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Sure. So John Fairclough, I really love working on difficult challenges. The more difficult they are, the more I love it. I love the intensity of it. There's just something about creative problem solving that pushes us to our limits that I love. I come out on the other side of it feeling so much smarter. So that's what I spend my time doing for work. And I love my family, spend a lot of time with my children, try to teach them things, especially around like doing things to aggravate them. It's like one of the things to survive, right? I get my build up a little bit of humor with them, but really teaching my kids to take things on, take it with a grain of salt, kind of look at it, find the good in the situation, and move forward. So I spend a lot of time with my children, and then the stuff for work, really on things, challenges that other people have a difficult time solving.
Yeah, a phrase like you saying a lot is, and it gets me in trouble, but that's okay, is the bear ain't gonna poke itself. And sometimes you're like, should I do that? My wife will look at me and go, no. I'm like, but I want to do it. Don't. And usually I'm smart and I'll listen to her, but I'm not always smart. So it happens. But no, it's digging in and leaning into improving things is a skill set. Some could argue a gift because a lot of people run far, far away from it. But much like skeletons, they're in us. So we try to outrun our skeleton, but there's a skeleton literally inside of us. So you're not going to outrun it. And I find, especially with people that procrastinate a lot, including myself, there are certain things. If I'm dreading doing something, I've finally learned after 50 something years of, okay, why am I avoiding this? What about this? Is it a past trauma, uncertainty? What is it? And let's just do it. It's like pick a day, line in the sand, don't breathe until you get this done, kind of thing. And I find time and time again, when I deep focus on something, I get it done. It takes a lot less time than I thought it would. It's complete. I look at it and go, that turned out well. And then, for the next 10 or 15 minutes, I go, why were you beating yourself up over that?
Sure.
How much time have you lost doing that? And this is an ongoing thing that I see leaders of every level, struggle with time and time again. And I know your research touches on that quite a bit.
Yes, and there's a lot of things that get in the way of somebody taking action, and a lot of them are kind of rooted in fears, even though they don't know it. Like the patterns of decisions is a critical element to explore. And so, where have you lost your ability to decide on your own? Like where are you doing things just out of habit or out of pattern? And when you can find those the first thought is a lot of people have is like, how do I stop? How do I get rid of that? Like, let me do the opposite of that or whatever. But some of those pattern decisions are really good. Like coping is not a bad term. Neither is fear. A lot of people say, don't be afraid and whatever. Or like when it comes to get out of your comfort zone or something like that. And the idea is more like expand your comfort zone. If you get out of it, you want to ignore all the signals inside of your head that are telling you not to do it. It sounds more like coercion. It doesn't sound like you're willingly kind of going along with that. And so the idea is to say, wait a minute, if I'm coping, that's okay. That's a normal human response to situations. If I'm reacting to some fear, that's a normal response to it. All I want to do is reclaim my right, my ability to decide what I believe is best. And so if we can avoid demonizing those things and kind of get to the root of it, well, there's all kinds of reasons. Some is just fear, as we said, but other things are like when I'm under supported or the environment I'm in. I grew up in a really rough neighborhood and there were gangs all over. And so if I was on high alert, somebody could come in and say, hey, John, you're on high alert. You need to dial it down. not when I live over here. My context doesn't allow me to dial it down. Now, how can I get out of that environment, or how can I feel more safe in that environment? What are some of the steps I can take? That would be a more appropriate position. So I see a lot of people receiving advice that doesn't take into context the situations that they're facing or their inner circle, and what information do they have access to? What insights do they have access to? And so there's a lot of different factors that go into it. So I just like to be able to surface it. And once we see it, let's go look at what's going on around you that you can maybe control, because that pattern response might actually be the right response. It's just a matter of kind of holding on to the ability to make the decision on your own.
Yeah, it's quite the internal battles that we fight, and we bring the entire tool bag often, especially when, even though that situation may not warrant it, we will still bring back either past memories, traumas, experiences, which in itself, it's like, well, this is your tool bag. Bring the tool bag. You might need something, but sometimes we use the entire tool bag on something and we don't need to. It's like we're adding more to it than actually needs to be, because we sometimes react before we think, and it's just, we blame the amygdala to that, and our brains serve us well, but sometimes I wonder,
Right.
and that's definitely one of those areas. But I think that internal dialogue brings in, this empathy for yourself and self-control, but also accountability. It's Accountability is a big thing, and we talk about there needs to be more accountability for people in the world. And on a surface level, yes, of course, that makes a lot of sense. But when you're dealing with yourself as a leader, and that's the first person you need to lead is you. Before you even think about leading anybody else, you have to figure out how to lead yourself the best that you can, because in that way you're going to be the best leader you can be for the people that are serving you, and you're serving them as well. And accountability is one of those things, much like procrastination. Some people go, not sure about that. That seems a little messy, but it it helps you develop those internal systems. And I know you have an amazing system that you talk about in your book, about that. So let's talk a little bit about accountability, and then obviously we'll lean into obviously the book itself, but also the operating system that you refer to in the book.
Sure. So I agree on that accountability. I believe accountability actually creates freedom. So when we're not accountable, then somebody else holds us to the standard. And so if we can proactively handle our responsibilities and be accountable to them, that actually generates time and freedom to do what we'd like. When we were talking about like what limits our decisions and our decision-making ability in that, a lot of it is tied actually to forgiveness. And this is a fascinating topic, because if not forgiving myself is in the form of shame, and then not forgiving another person is resentment. And if we're looking to have the full arsenal of every possible decision at our disposal, if that's what we're looking for, if we honor the shame, there might be 10 options, but by honoring the shame, I'm reduced down to two or three or four. Same thing on resentment. If I'm upset with somebody and I want to honor that resentment, instead of having my 10 options, I'm down to two, three, or four options. And so I love this reclaiming our free will, our ability to make decisions on our own. That's a very important item for me. And so when I'm looking at any situation, it's really, how can I do things that I'm proud of? Whatever it is, I want to build a company I'm proud of. I want to raise my children in a way I'm proud of it. Where if somebody asks me why it is the way that it is, or why I did what I did, I can share with them, and they can see what's most important to me playing out in the logic that I deployed. So even if I didn't accomplish the goal, the goal that somebody else might have had for me, or even if I didn't accomplish the full level of success that was possible, if I did the appropriate level for me, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for comfort in my decisions, or that I'm at peace with my decisions, much more so than the desired outcome, or what looks like the desired outcome.
It's really important work. So let's talk about my OS. We know about, I'm an iPhone user, so we have iOS. But
Sure.
what's my OS? I mean, it's fascinating what you have in the book about that. So let's dive in there.
Well, so my OS is kind of a play on the iOS in that it's my operating system. And the idea is that at the center of my operating system should be my inner peace. And my inner peace, like my definition of a good man. So if each of us has different strengths, gifts, limitations, experiences, all of that. So we're all unique. And we each have our dignity, and we never lose our dignity. We don't acquire dignity. We're born with it, and the idea because we're people, and the idea here is how can I make as many decisions, important decisions of my life align with my definition of a good man. So if I can do that, I'm going to achieve that inner peace, where that inner peace is a signal that my hands, my heart, and my mind are all working together, even if one of them is wrong. See, the idea is that I want to have that integrity that all are working together. And as long as I'm doing that, I could be at peace with what I'm doing. Like I'm at a spot of saying, okay, well, I did what I thought was right. Now new information comes in, and that might change what I would do going forward. Well, I reserve the right to change what I do based on this new information. And there's if you look at that, it's kind of this calm way of approaching the item rather than the anxiety-filled response of trying to be something that I'm not. And that whole drift of identity really happens in those pattern decisions. When people, what in my research, I was able to see that people who make pattern decisions look at those pattern decisions as part of their identity. And then when you question it, it's like you're questioning their identity. So you're not discussing an item. You're not discussing something that's kind of neutral that you're just able to dissect. It's actually like an attack on their character. And this is one of the side effects of this whole um, uh, pattern decisions. Like that's a side effect of making those decisions that way. And so when we could reclaim our freedom to decide, and then we know what logic we used to do it. Like for me, I didn't accomplish everything I could have in my career because it was important to me to spend a lot of time with my kids. And I didn't spend a lot of time with my father. I didn't spend any time with my father. And I didn't spend much time with my mother either. And so I didn't have a lot of parenting time. So for me, it's going to be very important to spend time with my children. Now, someone else might look at it who had a different experience with their parents and look at it like I spent too much time with my kids. And hey, I could have accomplished so much more in my career. I'm satisfied with what I did. Like I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish in business, and I could have done more, but that doesn't mean I should have done more. I love how I invested that time. So there's just this idea that my definition of a good life, my definition of a good man, that's what I want to be at, front and center when I'm making my calls and how I handle situations. And for sure, I want to use my strengths for sure. And for sure, I want to see the good in other people. I want to do things that I can be proud of. I want to be, to me, a good man is honorable. So what does honor mean to me? And then I want to make sure that I'm making those kinds of decisions.
Yeah, I want to touch on that in a moment, but I would be remiss if I didn't bring up a story where, you talked about, how it was kind of an attack on my character. It reminded me of a situation. I ran a multi-site healthcare clinic for launching my organization. And it was a situation where we had mental health workers, social workers, and we had a couple main sites, and we had four social workers, and they bounced between the two sites, all four of them. And so it was kind of a hoteling type of situation where they really didn't have their own desk. So we had two offices at each location for them. And they didn't have their own desk. So it was always like a traveling roadshow for them. And, I talked to them. I'm like, would you like to have kind of a home base? And they said yes. And so it's like, okay, well, let's, give me the dynamics of your patient loads so I can see where do you currently spend the most time? Where's your current roster of patients? This location or this location. So I got all of that, harmonized it. And then I made the decision, okay, here's what we're going to do. You two, you're going to be parked here. You're not going to the other site. You two are going to be staying here. You're not going to go to that site. You literally thought I went and shot everybody's grandmother, because everybody was livid. They were attacking. There were doctors that actually signed a petition to the board, trying to overturn my decision. The board supported me. The board thought it was a great idea. They're like, okay, we got all this. And I said to them, it's like, look, I'm not going to die on the vine on this. If they want to do it this way, that's fine. But I was told by the clinicians themselves, and they were kind of afraid to push back to the doctors, which I understand. And I said, okay. And we talked about it, and they said, well, why don't we give it a trial? Let's give it a 90-day trial. Okay. That was 14 years ago. The clinicians that were placed at those locations are still at those locations. Didn't change. Now, I could go ego and go, told you, that's not where I went. For me, it was a validation, but it was also one of those things where I looked internally, going, okay, why is this bugging me? And that's when I talked to the board. I'm like, I'm not going to die on the vine on this one. I'm willing to walk away from this and say, look, okay, fine. Um, but it was one of those things where I had telling myself I had to make sure that this was not going to leave any type of residue on anything going forward. Because if it did, then that would, damage my ability to lead if I didn't move on from this and continue on the path that, the board was directed me to take. But it was that example you gave was critically important. So I wanted to bring that up. But going back to what you talked about, you're quite frankly, and you talk about in your book too, you basically kind of described your manifesto, your own manifesto for you on how I am going to operate in life. And that's, yeah, I think you refer to it as the BU manifesto. So I want to dive into that a little bit.
Sure. So the BU manifesto piece of it is the core identity of it. So like who are you? And then what are your vocations, right? So I'm a son, I'm a father, I'm a friend, I'm an owner of a business, so I'm a leader of teams. There are all these different vocations that I have. And then how do I take my gifts, my strengths, the all of the good that I'm able to do, how do I take that and apply those into each of those areas of my life? And so the manifesto piece of it is really centered on that core identity. In addition to that, in the MyOS system, there's another component which is around leadership under pressure. Like, so what do I do when I'm under pressure? And so that's where the coping masks come into play. And then there's a handful of other items, like there's fears, there's the vocation, the priorities, there's the forgiveness piece, who your inner circle is, like the information you have access to. These are all things that impact your ability to decide under pressure. And so that element of the MyOS is really developed through assessments. So we pose a bunch of different questions, and we get the responses, and then we synthesize all this information across multiple domains and are able to come back and show, hey, here's according to your responses, here are the areas of opportunity for you. Here's some things that describe the way that you function. And the idea there is that we're communicating with adult learners, so we want to present information in a way where they look at it and say, that's me. And then, wait a minute, that is me, and these are the situations I face. And then taking them on that journey to really then be able to name the struggles of what they're facing and why that's happening, and then giving them a path out. And so we have the identity portion, the coping portion, the full report, and then how to activate the insights that come from there. And that piece is that activation piece is so critically important, because now that you have all this information, what are you going to do with it? And so we have a process to help them activate it into a weekly one-on-one with themselves, and then a 90-day kind of strategic playbook that they have, like a longer term personal growth plan. And then we take out of that longer term plan, what are we looking to accomplish over the next 90 days? That comes down into the next month, comes down to the next week, and really help them activate their learnings. Activate, and then activate, maintain, and then recover when they get off track.
love that because when they look back, they do this and they go out a year and then they look back if they followed the system and implemented their operating system. They look back and they go, "Oh my goodness, I'm completely changed." You're still the same person, but you refined and basically sorted things around to the point where it would flow better for you. And add some skills and gifts and other things that you may not have been using, or learn some skills that you didn't necessarily have before, but now you do. All of a sudden, you're operating from a better state of flow. And when you do that, life tastes so much better. And it's an ongoing thing. It's not like a set it and forget it. And as much as we humans would love to do that, the version of me today is not the same as the version of me even a month ago, or 6 months ago, or definitely not a year ago, or even further back. There's things. I've made improvements. Different things have happened in life. There's all kinds of things that come into play. But if you have that appetite for wanting to be better, you're for yourself, do it for you. Don't do it for anybody else. Everybody's going to benefit from it. But if you do something for you to make you a better version of you, you're a better dad, you're a better parent, you're a better friend, you're a better coworker, you're a better boss, you're a better neighbor, you're a better everything. And it's quoting the second time I've quoted him today, the late Jim Rohn. It's easy to do. It's also easy not to do. I hope you choose the easy to do part and follow through with this. So, in closing, anything you want to highlight as far as people just to get started down this path to really, make their operating system really, really shine and flow in a state that's going to be beneficial to everybody involved?
Sure. Well, the first part is just to acknowledge that you're going to be at your strongest when your hands, your heart, and your mind are working together. So if my hands aren't in conjunction with my heart or my mind, I'm less than in those situations. And so the idea is to gain that alignment. Misalignment complicates everything. So if I can gain my alignment, I'm going to be at my strongest. So we are encouraged to do this. Like we're like it makes very simple logical sense that if we do this, we're going to be at our strongest. And if you're facing difficult times, well, you certainly need to be at your strongest. And so I would just, if someone does nothing else but kind of reflect on where they're at, where are your hands not doing what your heart feels or what your mind thinks, and just try to surface those items and start addressing them.
My words to live by. So, John, I love this conversation. Where can people find out more about you, this work, your book, everything else?
Sure. So my website is johnfairclough.com. My YouTube channel, which really grew over the last year, I started in May, and now we're over 11 million subscribers, which is really kind of cool. So
Mhm.
that's the John Fairclough, and I'm on LinkedIn. So come check us out.
I definitely will have all that in the show notes. And congratulations on the YouTube growth too. That you're impacting millions of people, literally. So I really appreciate your time today, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Likewise, thank you.